morning, folks, and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments where our very own Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I am awesome. What a great day. It's nice to see you. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. I always look forward to our show. This is more importantly, this is a fantastic week to be very thankful and very grateful for a lot of things. And folks, we are very grateful for you guys tuning in every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. We've got a great show for you today, and I can't wait to get started. So what do you say we jump right to it, Judy?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, folks. So we have been talking for several weeks about different concepts. We've talked about, different pillars of illegal financial investments, wealth planning. And if you haven't been following us, please do so. Follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. You can watch a lot of our replays on her social media as well, on Facebook, as well as YouTube. There is a wealth of information also on our website that we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. But kind of following what we've been discussing, we talked about wealth planning and legacy, and it's proper that we also talk about something that's very important to folks that sometimes we really don't think about, and that's insurance, right?
Yeah.
There's the insurance work can cover an entire gamut of different things, but I want you to take your time today and take us on this journey, this deep dive regarding insurance, because a lot of us, what we think we know, we may not really even know. We maybe get it covered or not, or somebody's, we're paying for things that we shouldn't really have to be paying for, things like that. And I am so glad that you're here to lead us in that path and kind of, make sure that we're on the right track for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you say insurance to a person, everybody has a different idea of what that is. They might be thinking health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, home insurance, like, if my house burns down kind of a thing. It might be if somebody owns a business, they're thinking about all the tortious insurances and the business insurance. And what if I have an employee that goes rogue, or, all of those things. So there are so many kinds of insurance, and all it is just a contractual first line of defense. If something happens, it's bad. Instead of having to make yourself whole financially, insurance is a way to subrogate to help you become whole, right? If you crash your car, instead of buying a brand new car, you might have to pay $1,000 deductible, and then you get a new car. So if your house burns down, you might have to put $10,000 in, but now they're going to rebuild your house. So it's a way to just manage that risk if there is a catastrophe. There's life insurance, and we're all going to die at some point. But if that catastrophe happens before we expect it, and the cost is too high, we can't bear that cost. For example, if you're making money, bringing money into the household, and now you're not there to do that, how are we going to fill that gap? And so life insurance is one way to do that. And it can be used many different ways. So insurance has so many different meanings to different people. Most people need a collection of it. They might need one or two kinds, or they might need dozens of kinds, depending on what's going on in their life and what the risks are that they need to manage or send out to a third party, which would be the insurance companies. So there's really a lot to think about when it comes down to insurance. I think for a lot of people, they wonder, do I have the right kind? Do I have the right amount? Do I have it for the right reasons? And it's a little tricky with insurance, because the way you would get the answer to those questions for most people is to ask an insurance agent, somebody who's selling it to you. Well, the problem with that is there's a built-in conflict of interest. Because someone who is selling you the insurance, of course, they know about it, right? They have to study and they have to know about the policy they're selling you. But their incentive is for your premium to be as high as possible, because the commission that they're paid is based upon the premium amount that you pay. And so they're not really interested, right? There's a conflict there. They're not interested in your premium being as low as possibly possible. They would not mind it if your premium were a little higher. And so it doesn't mean that they're bad people or they're doing bad things or everybody's only thinking about their commission, like commission breath, right? But it can happen. And so it's just important to know it's a good thing to shop. If you can find a wholesaler rather than a retailer, which is rare but possible, that's always better, because you cut out all of that commission, the sales charges that are inside of those insurance policies. So those are a couple things that might help you if you're thinking about, the answer to those questions that you might have about insurance.
So Judy, you also talked about the life insurance, and I know when we were talking about last week, we kind of touched a little bit on, part of the financial planning, part of the legacy and all that. talk to us why it's important to have that life insurance. And I know that there's just different components. I remember way back in my younger days, right, when we didn't know any better. I grew up with my dad saying, you have to have life insurance if something happens to you, so you take care of your family and all that.
Mhm.
Things have changed over the years. I mean, it almost changes kind of like on a yearly basis, right? So back then, we didn't have something that I believe I keep hearing this term of living benefits, right? I don't think that
Mhm.
existed back then, in that time. And
Right.
back then also, we talked about insurance agents where, they would tell you, most policies are usually 30 years or whatever it is. But for us, a lot of us got stuck with maybe 10-year.
Mm.
So that you can renew right after. It would be at a higher rate and so forth. But these are things, again, like you're saying, that we don't know. So take us down that path of, especially if we're talking about planning and we're talking about our legacy, what should we be looking for, and maybe the differences in the life insurances?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, do you need it's determining the need for the insurance, because it might be for business succession. It might be to take care of your family if you're not here to earn money for them. It might be to cover college if you die way before you expect to. Or maybe it's just legacy to cover causes you care about, people that you care about down the road. You just want to leave them something. And you pay the premium now, they get the big lump sum later. So the first thing is, what do I need the insurance for? And the important thing to think about is the need will change over your lifetime. There's different seasons in life that you need insurance for different reasons, right? You were talking about a young family. I better protect them. What if I'm not here? What are they going to do? They're going to lose their house, whatever.
Mhm.
So there are different reasons to have insurance. So determine that first. And then when you know what the reason is, you can calculate how much you're going to need for that. Well, what would it cost to replace my income for 20 years if I weren't here to earn it? What would it cost to keep them in the house, to cover the mortgage so they're mortgage free? What would it cost to cover college for a kid or two? Right? So you can calculate how much you're going to need. And then you calculate how much you're going to need for temporary insurance and then for permanent insurance. So for most of us, mortgages don't last forever. You might have 10 years, 20 years, 30 years at the most for most people. But let's say there's 20 years left to pay on your house. At the 20-year mark, you don't need insurance for that purpose anymore, right? It's going to diminish and then be gone. So you can plan that way. Why have more insurance than you need, right? Because the premium goes up the more insurance you need. If it's, pardon me, if it's for a business purpose, there might be a time when the business is liquidated or the business is transferred, it goes public, or it's transferred to another owner or another partner, where you don't need that succession planning business insurance anymore. And so it's only temporary for a certain time. So if it's temporary insurance, you can buy what we call term insurance for a period of years, 10 years, 20 years, 17.2 years. You can pick your term. Usually 30 years is the max, depending on your age. Or it could be permanent insurance. And permanent insurance is usually what an agent wants to sell you because the premiums are higher. But the nice thing about it is it doesn't run out. If you pay your premiums on time or properly fund the policy, it can last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It lasts until you die. It's a permanent policy.
Wow.
So if the purpose for your insurance is a legacy purpose, or it's an ongoing purpose for grandchildren or some long-term purpose, you'll want to get permanent insurance for that. And most people, when they buy permanent insurance, they're buying it because the agent told them this is a way to supplement your retirement. It's a way to pay for college for the kids, things like that. And they commingle the purpose of life insurance, which is protecting against a death event. And they commingle that with planning for the future, like investing. And there isn't an investment element to permanent insurance, but most people commingle it, and it's a very expensive way to get there. It works, but it's not the most efficient way to get there. And then the other thing that you mentioned, I just want to touch on, is the living needs benefits or the life benefits in a life insurance policy. So a lot of people are concerned about, what if I have to go into a nursing home later? What if I need a nurse to come look after me and I want to stay in my home? Where's that money going to come from? I can't afford that risk. So financially, you can prepare for long-term care needs with long-term care insurance. And most of the time, I talk people out of long-term care insurance because if you don't need it, all the premiums that you pay, it's not inexpensive. All the premiums you pay, you lose, right? If you don't need it, it's gone. But there are life insurance policies, many good companies that have life insurance, all the things that we've talked about, but they add on, and the good ones have no extra premium for these benefits. They add on the ability for you to pull money out of that ultimate death benefit while you're living. So if you do need a nurse to come look after you, if you need to get a van that has a wheelchair lift on it, if you need to build a ramp onto the front of your home because now your mobility is compromised, if you know you're going to have a critical illness or a terminal illness, and you want to go hit that bucket list and just create memories with your family and do those things that you never could, you can take the money while you're living, not all of it, but usually up to half, and you can do those things with no questions asked. Take the money out and use it while you're living. Some people pull the money out and they go seek alternative treatment that their health insurance won't cover, maybe in another country, and they have great results with that. So there are so many things that can be done with these policies. If you look at, first of all, a wholesaler or an independent broker, and then you look at, you shop all the breadth of options that are available and make a list of the things that are important to you. Why do I want the insurance? What do I want it to do for me? So those are some things that might help if you're in the market for life insurance, or if you want to look at the kind you have and really question, do I have the right kind and the right amount? Or did I get kind of sucked into something, just because I needed to have a policy in my cabinet? So some good things to think about.
Yeah, and folks, thank you for joining us this morning. And that's another Money Truth moment right there. And this is why I love this show, because it educates folks. They have all of these questions, but they don't have somebody to turn to, or they don't have the capability to really just talk to somebody about this. Is going to give it to them straight, like you've always shared with our audience as well too. And if you're just joining us, please make sure you're following Judy at judycopenbarger.com. We're going to talk about more of her website and her resources later on in the show. But we are currently talking about insurance. We just talked about life insurance, and I think that's crucial what you just explained, because it's a misconception with folks. They think life insurance, it's just a one-way ticket and you're done, you're signed up. But there's so many layers to it and so many things, like you just said. Why overpay when you don't need to do certain things, and some of that. So let me go back again, still talking about insurance, and I want you to kind of walk me through. Let's just say I've been living under a rock forever and ever, right? I have no clue what insurance is, especially, more importantly, as a young couple or young folks out of high school, right? Getting into college, getting into the workforce. What are some tips? What are some best practices that you can share with folks? Those like I said, those kids that are out of high school, those kids that are looking to get married, looking to start a family. What are some things that they need to be aware of so they start planning properly?
Well, I think insurance should be on the list for a young couple that are ready to get married. I mean, we all obviously almost always are coming from a family where you have parents that could look after you in the early years. If something did happen to your spouse, you could maybe move back home. If you don't own a home yet, they've always got that spare bedroom, that you use for high school. There's always good family support. I see a lot of people, if they need the help, siblings will help them. Nieces and nephews, for older folks that have grown ones, they'll chip in. Most families like their relatives. They have relatives that really will look out for them if something catastrophic happens. And so if they don't have the protection that insurance provides, they'll probably be okay. They've got a place to go. But for people that don't want to have that dependency, or they don't want to, be a burden, you hear that a lot. They want to independently handle that kind of a risk, and insurance is a way to do it. So for that young couple, I would say go ahead and get some insurance. If you're starting out and you're the typical, we don't have a house yet, we're going to save up for a condo, we're just struggling, we're just out of school, we're just getting going. We do not trust babies. We don't have a lot of money yet, like regular vanilla code people. I would say for those people, when you get married, consider at least a basic policy, something you can afford. And it's less expensive than you think. For just like a 20-year term, a 30-year term, if you're in your 20s, it might be $25 a month each, if you're healthy, right? So it's not very much money. I call it cappuccino money. You spend more than that at Starbucks in a week, right? So I think that's something very good to do. It's the beginning of adulting. It's kind of like you start your retirement, even if it's $50 a month. You start your savings, even if it's $50 a month. You start your insurance, even if it's $50 a month. And it just becomes the beginning of something that you're going to build. It's kind of like part of that greenhouse. You have a greenhouse and you have the garden. Greenhouse protects, garden grows. And right now, maybe your greenhouse isn't that big, but you want to have protection for what you do have. As you grow your wealth and as you grow the risks and the complexity of your financial life, your greenhouse will need to grow too. So the insurance that you purchase in your first couple of years of marriage in 5 years might not be adequate. You've got to revisit it. It's not something you put in the cabinet and never look at again. You know, you got to get out your files and every year or two, just take a really good look at that. I hope that helps.
No, absolutely it does. And I think it's also very important that you guys need to understand that all of the stuff that you've been listening to throughout the weeks, throughout the months, all of this wisdom is all been part of Judy's legacy, which I will talk about a little bit later as well. But right now, I think it'd be a good transition into talking a little bit more about your website. Folks, thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us now, please watch the beginning of the show because we are covering insurance and there's a lot of great information that Judy has just shared. So make sure you watch the beginning of the show. But tell us or share with folks what they can find at judycopenbarger.com. Tell us about your website and what's available.
There's a lot of good stuff there. There's articles, there's videos on every subject of personal finance and small business finance, that anything you'd ever want to know. And stuff you don't even know that you want to know. It's all there. There's also access to the Money Truth and Life online mastery program on the website, judycopenbarger.com. You can go there and enter the program and take a course or a class on any of these financial issues, whether it's insurance or it's business or it's legal entities, wills and trusts, investments, retirement programs. All of that is right there at the Money Truth and Life online mastery program. And judycopenbarger.com is your ticket in. So enjoy. And I'd love to hear your feedback.
Awesome. And you heard it, folks. There is a lot of, the word is free, right? Free. Just all it takes is just a little bit of your time. You get up in the morning, grab your coffee, go to the website, check out some of the videos, check out some of the content. I think you guys are going to really be just surprised of how much you're going to be able to get out of it. And it's available to you as well. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and make sure that you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.com. So we're halfway through the show, and I kind of want to flip this a little bit, right? Because I also want folks to know, over the months, over the last year or so, folks have gotten to know you a little bit better and all that. We know the purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. But being this week, being a week of just Thanksgiving, being grateful and all of that. So I have a question for you that's come up, and folks have asked, and I also wanted to ask you as well. Think back about when you got started with all of this, right? Like, where was that moment where you said, this is what I want to do and why I want to do it?
Wow. Well, there's been a lot of those moments because it hasn't been a straight shot. I've kind of it's been a journey. I've taken a lot of turns and twists, and it's been a great journey. But I think when I knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial and I wanted to do something to help people financially was in my early years. I learned about insurance. I learned about investments, and I was doing a lot of that. I've always been pretty fiscally ahead, took a lot of classes in college, so I would know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, I grew up with a dad that always had his own business. So I saw him doing the books and managing the budget and things like that. So I had good role models growing up, but I knew probably by the time I was a teenager that I wanted to do something financial, something with money and helping people have more so they can do more. And I was really burdened by the pastors that I would meet through the years, the ones that lived in the little town in the parsonage, with the little church next door, and they would serve their community for years and years and years and then have nothing. And that really bothered me, kind of made me angry, like justifiably angry. Right. And so I wanted them to have something. They're serving their whole lives and nobody's looking after them now. And so I learned tools that I could give them and teach them to help them have something at the other end. And That was powerful. And then I learned I could help teachers, and I could help janitors, and I could help business owners, and I could help people down the street, and I could help all kinds of people. And so I just kept gathering resources and credentials and education that would help me broaden the services that I could provide. And that's kind of how it happened. So I've just been adding to my tools, adding arrows to what do they say? Adding arrows to my little pack or whatever.
Mhm.
My whole career, just so I could help people in more profound ways.
I think one of the reasons I wanted to ask you this question too is because over the last year, we've gotten to know the real you, right? And folks understand that what they see is what they get, right? There's no gimmicks here, folks. Judy's not doing this because she's gonna make millions off of this show or whatever. Or, a lot of the stuff that she offers is worth a lot. And I think the fact that you're taking the time to really share this out. We talked about your legacy, which is very important for you. And I think it's also shows in what you just shared, something that's for a lot of people that might not mean a whole lot, but for you, you took something that was actually, it is an issue, right? If those pastors aren't being taken care of, to be able to multiply that into help different folks, different families throughout your journey and all of that. So speaking of that as well, too, since we're talking about, being thankful, share some stories of over the years that you've helped some families, in dire needs. I'm sure you've come across quite a bit of folks, but I'm sure that there's, maybe a couple of stories that really stand out for you over the years that you've been able to make a huge impact for someone or a family.
Yeah, from the clients that I have, their feedback is so invaluable. It's just life changing, the work that we do and the impact that it has on them. And I'm so motivated when people not only have enough and they know they can retire and they can go golfing and they can go on a cruise, they're able to give back. That lights me up. So in these later years, I've had more and more clients that they're not, trying to save $50,000 to retire. They're trying to save $500 million, to give away. And it is those kind of numbers. It's crazy. The principles are the same. Once you have your budget down and once you get your basic insurance in place, it's about protecting what you have for the people you care about and the causes you care about. And there comes a time where you ask the question, well, how much is enough? How much do I need to leave for my children and grandchildren? How many millions, how many tens of millions do I really need to leave for them? What else can I do with this? And so I get to work with families that have this generous spirit, and they're changing the world, not just with their money, but with their time, with their resources, with their knowledge. They're out speaking and teaching and inspiring other people to give as well. That lights me up. I met with clients a couple of weeks ago that are doing that at about that level. And they're, people would say very wealthy, ultra wealthy, but they don't know it. I mean, they can see the dollars and cents on the page and they know they've got, property and apartment buildings all over the country and things like that. But the questions that we're helping them answer is, what do I do with this? How do I steward this well? How much should the family get? How much should the grandkids get once they come? What do I do with this now that, it's this vessel of all this money coming through? How can I change the world with this? It's wonderful. And to be able to be in the front row helping them craft those strategies is amazing. I had clients last week that I met with. I see them 3 times a year. And, at the end of the meeting, I said, well, how's it? They retired a few years ago. At the end of the meeting, I said, well, how's it going? What is your confidence level that you have everything you need? That, all your goals are met. You're able to help your family. You're traveling. You're doing all these things. And they said they have nothing that ever wakes them up at night or keeps them up at night thinking about, ooh, what if that happened? What if that happened? What if something happened in the government? What if something happened in the market? What if something happened to my health? What if something happened to one of my kids? They never, ever have a financial concern ever. And that is the biggest boost for me to hear. It's the biggest compliment for me to hear that myself and our team are able to deliver that confidence in people. That's what it's all about. And these are people that this time of year, every year, they give a lot of money away because they can. And they are able to measure, okay, here are our needs the rest of our lives. But what do we need beyond that? Not a whole lot. What else can we do with that? And so just to help people with their generosity, to help people with their impact, I feel like we're doing that too. And if I can help other people be inspired and have the tools they need, the resources they need to be able to give back that way and know their numbers and things like that, that's huge. So I think I've got the best job on the planet helping people do that.
Yeah, and it's just a wonderful feeling. And that's why, again, I wanted to make sure that folks know why you guys started. I mean, we've talked about legacy
Mhm.
before, why you're doing all of this, but also those stories, I think, really hit home because there's a lot of folks listening who can relate to them. You know,
Mhm.
they're still trying to look for where's my Judy, right? They're still trying
Yeah.
to find that as well too. And it's fortunately that a lot of them who tune in are taking advantage of looking at the website, reaching out, and making sure that they're making the right choices and the right decisions. And I think that's really what your whole legacy has been about with this show. It's just making sure that folks have the right tools to ask the right questions and to be able to move forward in a very positive way in their journey. So can't say enough, but we thank you for that as well too. But hey, I know we're getting to the end of the show, and you know what time that is, right? It's our Money Truth Challenge time. All right.
It's
What you
the
got
best.
for us?
I do have a challenge. Get out your pen and paper. Got to have a pen, write it down. It's got to go from your brain, through your eyes, down your arms, through your hands onto the paper. Something magical about doing that, but do it. I think doing this on your phone isn't quite the same. And I don't know if that dates me, but I think there is something about it going through your body to the page, right?
Yeah.
That's biblical too, by the way, writing it down. Okay. All right. Here's your challenge. 3 things. The first thing is we talked a little bit about insurance today. It was a deeper dive than I intended, but I think there's always a reason. Somebody needed to hear that. The first thing is, when you're thinking about all the insurances, all the risks in your financial world, think about the one gap that you have that is like, I probably should review that insurance policy. Maybe I should look into what kind of insurances they have at work. Maybe they'll even pay for them. A lot of times there's employee benefits that you can look into. So where's the gap? What should I be doing? Is there more that I should be doing with my business insurance? Do I have the right fire and flood insurance? Do I need it at all? Earthquake? I don't know. The second thing to write down is, how am I going to solve it? What possible ways could I solve it? Do I need to talk to someone? Should I call my agent? Should I talk to a parent or a sibling that knows more about these things? What do I need to do? And the third thing is, what can I do right now? What's my next step to make progress in the area of insurance protection? So that's it. Where's the gap? How am I going to fill it? And what am I going to do next? That's your challenge.
All right, folks, you heard the challenge. Make sure that you guys write that down. Like Judy says, you got your pen, you got your paper. Make sure you take some notes. Make sure you also, if you have a chance, share it with us because we'd love to hear some feedback from you guys as well too. So Judy, I'm going to say something at the end of the show, but I want you to have the last word here. Any parting words before we go?
Make it a grateful week. Make it a week of Thanksgiving. With everything that people have gone through the last couple of years, you do have a lot to be grateful for. And consider those things, ponder those things, and make it a great week.
Awesome, Judy. And right now, I actually want to take a moment on behalf of our audience and on behalf of myself. We are very grateful and thankful that you have carried us through this journey. We're always learning something new, and we're very much appreciate all of your wisdom. So thank you. Have an amazing Thanksgiving as well, too.
Oh, you as well, Carlos. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you guys next Tuesday, 8 a.m.
Bye.